On the 28th of March 2013, a brick wall located at the building development site on Swanston Street collapsed. The disaster occurred around 3 p.m. where wind gusts were measured to be exceeding 100 km per hour. The wall was adjacent to a heavily used footpath, which unfortunately took the lives of 3 young pedestrians. Alexander Jones and Marie Faywu, aged 19 and 33, died at the scene. Bridget Jones, aged 18, died in the hospital 3 days later from critical injuries sustained from the tragedy. The current status of investigations are the WorkSafe investigation, police investigation, Grocon internal investigation, and the coroner's court. The contributing factors that led to this disaster are numerous, with many of them being preventable. Firstly, the brick wall had been concluded to be poorly constructed, with an inadequate number of metal ties holding the 2 courses of brick together, thus leading to a poor structural integrity. Secondly, an engineer concluded that the wall was slightly higher than the weight it was designed to carry, and that the ground level behind the wall had been raised, encouraging the wall to tip. However, the most obvious contributing factor is the strong winds which Melbourne experienced, which pounded the wall until it collapsed. The recorded result from the Bureau of Meteorology was 102 km per hour winds at approximately the same time the wall fell. Finally, the highly preventable factor was a 12mm plywood hoarding connected to the wall, which importantly was higher than the brick construction. Mr. Eckers from Engineers Australia stated that, "If you erect a sign that is higher than the wall is attached to, it acts like a sail." This is exactly what happened in this situation in which the hoarding pulled down the brick wall construction. With so many contributing factors, the finger can be pointed at many people, each having their own contribution in this terrible accident. As a brief overview, the City Council, the developer, the engineer and the company that built the hoarding are all suspects for this tragedy. Planning Minister Matthew Guy issued a statement on the wall collapse saying, "It is the developer's responsibility to gain permits for the hoarding," thus pointing the blame at construction giant Grocon. Investigation results have confirmed that prior to the installation, no detailed design of how the hoarding was to be placed to the wall was included, and that there was no risk assessment about the wind loading on the wall with the hoarding attached. Council bylaws also require a building permit for the construction of a hoarding. The City of Melbourne should therefore have plans and details of the hoarding and inspected it. However, this did not happen, which means Grocon also failed to get an assessment before and after by a structural engineer on the wall's capacity to safely bear hoardings, thus breaching OH&S laws and safety regulations. As a result, construction giant Grocon and a small signage company are facing $9 million in fines after being criminally charged over the deaths of 3 pedestrians crushed in the Swanston Street wall collapse. 3 Grocon companies were hit with 5 charges under the Occupational Health and Safety Act, each charge carrying a maximum fine of $1.3 million, whereas the signage company Aussie Signs, a Grocon subtractor, who was the company that erected the hoarding, has been charged with 2 counts of breaching health and safety laws. Their actions can be described as unethical and legally wrong due to multiple reasons. The companies failed to protect the lives of the general public, or in this case 3 innocent pedestrians lost their lives. It was also simple and available for Grocon Limited to reduce or eliminate the risk for people around the vicinity of the wall by destroying it, seeing as the wall was not heritage listed. The companies also did not obtain a permit for the hoarding or get an engineer to inspect the wall before or after it was erected. Grocon also did not take the right steps to consider the impact of the extra height of the sign, which would have an impact on the structure of the brick wall. By reviewing what has happened, we can learn from this tragedy for it to never happen again. As the combination of height, poor design and hoarding magnified the applied pressure to the wall, which led to its destruction. However, questions are still being raised about why the local council did not demolish the wall if it posed such a large threat to the general public. Following the wall collapse, the Victorian Building Authority wrote to more than 20,000 registered builders, asking them to assess all structures on sites. They also wrote to all Victorian councils encouraging programs for inspection to ensure all structures are safe. One wall in particular at Northcote's St John the Baptist Monastery was pulled down for fears of immediate collapse only a month after the tragic accident in Swanston Street. Structural failures are common in our day-to-day lives. Recently, a temporary roof for a suburban house flipped over and landed on a footpath under heavy wind conditions. This happened only last week under heavy wind conditions. Another example is when a construction worker was killed in June when a brick wall fell on him in Melbourne southeast. Some of these accidents are preventable. However, occasionally companies have been known to shown risk lives for their own gain. The likely outcome for the court proceedings for Grocon and Aussie Signs is that they are guilty from breaching Acts 23 and 26. If proven guilty, it can be assumed that the current work practices and legislation are justified. However, if no charges are laid, then changes to existing laws are needed to prevent similar accidents from happening in the future. Thank you.
Created using Powtoon.